All right, peace. So now, when we left off, these four females and the one simp on the left, they were talking about the Adam Silver issue with him bringing Becky Hammond into the NBA as a coach. So let's see where we go from here.
And so I guess I hear what Adam Silver is saying in the sense that he needs to ensure that. But it's not just him. This is not just on him as the only man in the NBA. There are a ton of other GMs, presidents. Like, it's on them as well.
Yeah, it's on them not to look out for the welfare of their franchise and the marketability of their franchise and to make sure that they win and make money. It's on them to make sure that they bring in female head coaches. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's why this woman is damn near 50 years old and still looking for a husband.
Or do you just let it happen organically? Like, it's going to take another.
No,
like,
you
the
can't.
Spurs
I don't think you can.
I'm saying the Spurs can elevate Becky Hammond when Pop steps aside. It feels like another team has to tap Becky Hammond the same way they've done countless other Spurs assistants.
But part of the deal with this is that women get the opportunity, like Catherine Smith at the Bills, and then when their coach goes on, they go on too.
Yeah.
Because they're only there for a publicity stunt. This is not reality. See, these super liberals, they live in their own world, especially these super liberal women. They're the worst. It's like telling a child for the first time that Santa Claus doesn't exist. That's the same level of reaction and maturity that you get from them when you hit them with reality. It's like they're really sitting there talking about how come the NFL doesn't have female coaches. It's like you don't even have a WNFL. At least you have a WNBA.
If she doesn't have another spot yet, that's not to say she won't be hired again. She was really well liked by the Pagulas. However, I think this bubbling up process.
And if you look up that female coach that was with the, I think she was with the Arizona Cardinals. That female coach, she looked like she used to be a stripper and all that. I mean, it was so ridiculous. Like, it is so ridiculous. This push to force female authority figures into the sports world, because they're only doing it so that you can accept females as authority figures in your everyday life. That's the only reason why they're doing it. It's social engineering.
Is part of the deal. It's like having more and more women in these different spots. Eventually, one of them breaks through.
Yeah.
But kind of
breaks through to do what? To do what?
Kind of anointing someone and saying this one, has to get a head coaching job in the next 5 years. I don't know that that's the answer
That's what I
either.
mean,
Well,
yeah.
And
So then what's the answer? The answer is that they should allow a bunch of females who, by your own admission, haven't paid their dues. They should just bring them into the fold, into the already overlarge coaching talent pool, and they should just push former NBA players to the side to make sure that they have an equal representation of female coaches. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And there was a study, I want to say it was 2 years ago, of a bunch of college coaches anonymously asking about having women on their staff. And some of the answers were so deeply troubling that you wonder how
Almost as troubling probably as your last psychiatric visit.
much we give credit to guys like Pop and forget that there are coaches. They said, why wouldn't we be able to use the language I use if there was a woman around?
Please.
Well, I really couldn't be myself. Things would have to change a lot. And you're like,
Have you ever been around Sarah Spain?
Thank you.
we should be in our prep meeting.
Thank you. I'll show you what a real mouth is.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Just don't forget your knee pads.
Secondly, is if you're really saying that many things would have to change for a woman to be around, then you're probably doing some real bad stuff, right?
And right there, you just proved why they don't want women around. Right there, you just proved it. Just for you to assume that because they don't want you around, it's because they're doing quote-unquote bad stuff. Look at the look on this demon's face. Give me a break. Nobody takes you people seriously. And when I say you people, I'm talking about super liberals, particularly so-called super liberal females. Nobody cares about what you think. You spend all your time looking in the mirror trying to convince yourself that you're happy with your life. Like I said, most of these liberal women, they go home to a glass of wine and a vibrator.
Right. That's very true. Moving on to a hot topic in the NFL. ESPN's Mel Kiper said that on talent alone, Joe Mixon is the best running back in the draft.
Now you see what they did there. They went from Becky Hammond to Joe Mixon with their panel of females. So you already know what this is. This is like this is the male hammer fest. They just want to beat down this guy Joe Mixon now. Let's see how they cover this story.
Broncos head coach Vance Joseph, he met with Mixon and he called him a nice young man who is remorseful about his mistake. At first, it's interesting how this has progressed. It went from some thinking Joe Mixon would be undrafted, then, okay, he'll be drafted. Now it seems like based off...
Of course he's going to be drafted. He can play.
Based off what Mel Kiper is saying, that there are going to be some teams that really do think about drafting him in the first round.
Of course, they're looking for the next Ezekiel Elliott. The man can play.
Jane, what are your thoughts on that?
I think this is inevitable, right? I mean, you have 32 different teams in the NFL.
Isn't it funny whenever a so-called black male gets involved with a so-called domestic violence issue, they hold it over his head forever, right? You know how many of these so-called Caucasian athletes get involved with domestic disputes and it doesn't even get reported because there's a different protocol to how a Caucasian male is treated just in everyday investigative procedure than it is a so-called black male. As soon as they see a famous black male get involved with a domestic dispute, the first thing they're doing is they're calling up TMZ. They call up their local newspaper. When a Caucasian male athlete gets into it, probably drunken with a woman, the woman accused states that he raped her or that he beat her, the first thing they say is, well, ma'am, you know what? Why don't we help you get home? Then they talk to the guy and they say, hey guy, you're famous right now. Don't do anything stupid. Then they just drive off. I mean, there's just so much to, when you talk about racism, people think that racism is hanging people from trees and burning crosses on their lawn. It's just, it's a lot more intrinsic than that. There's a lot to it, just in basic procedure, just in basic outlook and subconscious observation and treatment than it is, the blatant stuff that people, want to try to point to. And I mean, look, it is what it is. That's par for the course. This is their kingdom. This is their society. They should show preferential treatment to their own. That's my issue with the so-called black liberals. You want to be treated equally in a kingdom that's not yours. It doesn't work like that. All right. If you want to be treated well, form your own kingdom. That's how it goes.
They're not all on the same page. You can have, it's like federal and state, right? Like the NFL can make rules if it wants to, not invite them to the draft, but you got to get all 32 teams on board in order to have a unified front. They don't have that.
A unified front against what? He didn't even commit a crime if we want to get literal with it. That's why the man is not in jail. The video showed him getting assaulted by the woman. Did he go a little too far? Yeah. He didn't need to cold cock the broad. But he put himself in a bad position, number one, by being out at 1 a.m. in the morning drunk. I mean, if you're up at 1 a.m. in the morning, you should be getting some ass. I mean, no disrespect to the man, but I've never understood dudes just standing outside at 1 a.m. in the morning. You're looking for trouble. And that's what happened to him. If you're up at 1 a.m. in the morning, you should be getting some ass. Either that or you should be sleeping right now because you're an athlete. Did he OD on the chick? Yeah, he did, but he did not commit a crime. All right? The female assaulted him. That's why there's no court in the land that could convict him of anything other than going overboard in his self-defense. And the media, the liberal media, can't deal with that, so they have to rake him over the coals.
I think the other question with that is, like, when can you say somebody gets a second chance? Like, when are we comfortable with that? And I'm not saying that it has to be in the first round of the NFL draft. I mean, I'm not even saying that it has to be, as a professional player. But I think this is now the next question that we have to wrestle with when we talk about discipline, when we see players do.
Look at Jamel Hill locked in. Didn't I tell you that the so-called black liberal female, I told you at the start of the first video, they're locked into the white female liberal. All right, for a lot of you so-called pro-black men out there who talk about the black queen and the black goddess and the so-called black woman is God, look at how locked in she is. All right, you could snap your fingers 3 times in front of that woman's face and she would not know you were there.
Extremely bad things. What happens after that? And what are they doing after that? And I think that's where we're going.
And I think that's how actually he was done wrong by Oklahoma, because by hiding him.
Now watch how she tries to play another mind game. She's going to say Joe Mixon was wrong by Oklahoma because they hid him and they protected him from the media. Now watch her justification for her nonsensical attempt at a mind game, at reverse psychology.
Him we don't learn anything about him. We don't learn whether he's changed. We don't learn whether he cares about what he did. And so it happens that we have this huge gap before we really hear from him for the first time. And then he's able to say it was so long ago, but we haven't processed it. We didn't see the tape until just now.
So the issue was not actually that a disservice was done to him by Oklahoma. The issue, once again, as usual with the super liberal female, is that they think a disservice was done to them. She thinks a disservice was done to her because she was not able to rake him over the coals in real time. Right? Now they allowed the situation to blow over, so she doesn't get the chance to ask him all those quote unquote probing questions, which are really just a reflection of bad relationships that she had in the past, or some guy who smacked the shit out of her back when she was in college and she's still mad about it. So she's going to take it out on Joe Mixon. That's what she's mad about. Talking about Oklahoma did him a disservice.
We haven't had these conversations until just now. I think transparency above everything is the key to second chances. And once we...
Yeah, transparency is the key to second chances. Yeah, we know that because you super liberal females, y'all are totally transparent with everything that goes on in your life, right? I wonder how many times in a drunken rage, I mean, how many orgies did you have in college drunk out of your mind? How many times did you sleep around on your so-called husband now while he was just your fiance? Yeah, transparency. Okay.
Once we feel like, all right, the lessons have been learned and the choices that are going to be made going forward are going to reflect that you did learn something, then I think we're
Who are you to determine whether or not he learned something or not? Your job as a media member is to report the story. Your job is not to levy judgment on him or his character, particularly for an incident that was not a crime, other than excessive self-defense. That's why he's not in jail right now. So there's really nothing for you to judge. The only thing that you could judge is his poor taste in being out that time of night and being in a drunken state. Right? When you get two drunks together, you get a lot of tomfoolery.
Most of us are going to be open to saying he was a kid and he did a very bad thing. Should that affect the...
Yeah, we know that because you Caucasian people, y'all are known for telling young black men, it's okay what you did. You were just a kid. Yeah, you guys are known for your leeway.
The rest of his life? Yeah, I think we need that transparency to decide that not just to say enough time has passed. That's like saying, let's float out Art Briles' name for a job. Don't give him this one, but the next time it gets floated out, we've already had the outrage. That's what's happening right here.
Well, that's the problem kind of with this overall is that there is no, what is the timetable? Like it's all, we've talked about this before. What's the number of games that if a player commits domestic violence, there wasn't
any domestic violence there. What he did was actually self-defense. Right. See, a lot of these females now, once again, that entitlement, they want to be able to hit a man and not get hit back. All right. If you're going to be against violence, then you should be against violence overall. I have not heard one of these females actually mention what actually occurred in the clip was that he was attacked by that female and he struck back. Now, did he overdo it? Most likely he did. He put himself in a bad position. But the actual facts of the video showed that she struck him first. I've yet to hear one person, and well, you know what, I shouldn't say that. I heard Joy Taylor on FS1 state that she hit him first, which was amazing to me when she said that.
There is no sort of secret potion there where you can come up with a solution that fits everybody. I guess it just depends on what...
The solution doesn't have to fit everybody. All it has to fit is the team that drafts him. Once again, nobody cares what you think. All right, these females, they're under such a malaise. Like they really think the super liberal female actually thinks that people care what she thinks. It's like the so-called Afrocentric black male thinks that people care what he thinks. Nobody cares about what the so-called Afrocentric, not to digress, but I got some emails from a couple brothers talking about, to accept the worship of Saturn because the ancestors. I'm going to address that in the future. A lot of you guys, some of you brothers, man. And when I say some of you brothers, I'm talking about, some of you Afrocentric, blackity black brothers who think that you know exactly what you're talking about. A lot of y'all don't know what the hell you're talking about. Saturn? You must be crazy.
So what you think the NFL's responsibility is. And look, this is part of the reason why in some ways as backward and as archaic as they used to be before they instituted a lot of these domestic violence, policies and tried to get smarter about the issue, I almost wish it was like it was before because...
Yeah, you wish it was like it was before, like the average female who makes mistakes in her life and wish that she can go back. Look at this broad over here looking like Peter Pan. Come on, man.
Because at least it was bad, but it was consistently bad, right? There was no, mean, it was there was
a dicey wish.
No, but it was consistently bad, and you knew what they were in it for. What does bother me is that I feel like it's insulting my intelligence to some.
Oh man, that's a small insult. Small insult for small intelligence.
Some degree, we hear coach after coach. Different GMs, owners saying domestic violence, no tolerance. Well, you do have some tolerance.
Right, they're tolerating.
I mean, or you do have some tolerance for women being hit.
Sure they did. Just like ESPN had tolerance for you when you compared rooting for the Celtics to calling Hitler a victim, right, Jamel Hill? When you did that, when you compared rooting for the Celtics to calling Hitler a victim, that's what you did. Right, and you made that statement, and the Caucasian Jews came down on your ass like a firestorm. Like I said, there's a liberal hierarchy, right? If she had said something like that inflammatory about black men, she could have got away with it. But when you go up on that liberal hierarchy, the Caucasian Jews, because they control the media, you cannot mention Hitler at all.
And in that particular case, we've got Vance Joseph, who I don't know if you guys remember in 2004 at Colorado.
Now this broad actually mentioned something from 13 years ago in regards to Vance Joseph, the new coach for the Denver Broncos, who made a kind statement about the running back Joe Mixon. Now she's going to bring up something from 13 years ago.
He's had his own issue.
Yeah, and so it's like, do I think Joe Mixon deserves a second chance? Yes. Do I think it's tough to stomach Vance Joseph telling me that Joe Mixon seems like a nice guy? And
who gives a damn if you can stomach it or not? You don't mind stomaching all them vaginal juices that you slurping down. Who cares what you can stomach? Vance Joe, you talking about something from 13 years ago. Knock it off.
In a situation where Joe Mixon has a couple $1 million on the line to act like a nice guy for an hour,
right.
Yeah, that's tough to stomach. That doesn't change the fact that I think Joe Mixon deserves a chance to play football.
Right.
But what you're talking about, like this double standard in the NFL, like we have to listen to that. On the other hand, the NFL saying that they're doing all of this good work.
We know what you're in it for.
Yeah, okay.
It's a bit of a charade now in some way.
Of course it's a bit of a charade because the NFL, they got raked over the coals with that Ray Rice nonsense. So now they still trying to double back and cover all they, dot their I's and cross their T's because they worried about you, bubblehead broads on ESPN.
Well, not inviting him to the combine is exactly that.
Well, that's
it's like I said, it's basically like not making a guy take the finals, but he still graduates. The point isn't to take the finals. The point is to graduate. You're still going to get to NFL. You didn't even want to go to the Underwear Olympics in the first place. So now,
yeah, I know you wanted to go to the Underwear Olympics.
So now you get to skip those and still get paid.
But you know what? I was okay with that. He didn't have to go to the party. All right, so you're making whatever. Maybe it's just for show, but the NFL at least made a statement and said, what, we're saying this is not happening.
He's still employable.
Right.
And
yeah.
ultimately,
then they just showed up at his home school to do his workouts, which is even
or
easier.
had him in for a visit.
Right.
We're talking about a second chance. He actually got the second chance from Oklahoma. So far, has made the most of it. What we're really talking about, what he seems to have to determine, and what they care about, is not what you did, but who you are, and whether or not what you did is a precursor to what you may do on their watch. Right. So they don't care that you hit a woman in your past. Just don't do it after we draft you. Don't embarrass us. Don't make us look bad for betting on you, especially the better you can play.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, isn't it amazing, even though he's a simp, how a man can come in and just bring a summation to all the endless dribble? See, that's why they have to use male-dominated venues to bring in women and make them relevant, because they know if they would have put them on their own channel, nobody would watch. Nobody would watch their nonsense at all. But you know what? We're going to conclude this on part 3. Peace.